What's going on, and welcome back to another less than 5 minute gear review. And in this video we're going to be going over the Tactical Tailor Fight Light 556 triple mag panel. Now these guys are going to run you roughly around 35 bucks, and they are worth the money, and they come highly recommended. This was actually one of the very first pouches that I ever purchased when I joined the military and I was in the infantry, and it was based off the recommendations of both friends, family, and guys that I would later deploy with, because of the experiences that they had with these pouches and with the company Tactical Tailor in general. So they come highly recommended. Tactical Tailor has an awesome reputation for building reliable products and then fixing anything if it is damaged for whatever reason. So they come highly recommended. I ended up actually trading the older version that I had of this, or it was slightly different when it comes down to it, but it's still essentially the same pouch. I traded them for some combo pouches because I was an RTO at the time, but over time and with the setups that I'm setting up with the SNS Precision plate frame modular, I ended up needing them again because of some offset issues that I had with adding additional pouches to the top of this. I'm going to show you that here in a second so that way you can see what I'm talking about. But with that, I want to dive right into this so that way you can see what's going on, how this is set up and configured to help you determine whether or not you want to run with this pouch, or if there's another pouch that you're comparing it to help you determine what's going to be best for you and your setup. So jumping and diving right into this, the front of this is just going to be your standard MOLLE for the most part. The MOLLE is an inch rather than an inch and a half, but it does not affect how pouches attach and the pouches being securely fastened to the front of it. Like you can see on this tan one, the MOLLE and everything does exactly what it's supposed to. These pouches don't shift around really at all when it comes to attaching additional pouches on top of the MOLLE. So you don't have to worry about that. It's going to do what it's supposed to do. It's going to securely fasten additional pouches on top of this. So no worries there. With that though, it is an inch rather than an inch and a half like you can see on this backside. So a little bit different, a little bit when it comes to the design feature, but no issues there. When it comes to the bungees, you have the active retention for any type of operational environment, land, sea, or air, and you're working in and around boats, vehicles, aircraft, whether you're heloing in or jumping out of them, you're going to have those to be able to retain your magazines so that way they're not falling out with those means of infiltration and exfiltration. So that will retain your equipment as it should. And then you have your 3 pockets for your magazines. So the cool thing with this is, because of how like streamlined this thing is, and kind of low profile, I guess you could say, the pockets are pretty tight. They'll hold the magazines. You do still run the risk of them falling out because there isn't any other active retention aside from these bungees. So if you pull these bungees off, they're just gonna, for the most part, slide right out real easily. When you're running and gunning in though, I've never had magazines fall out of this, so you don't have to worry about that. But you flip upside down and they're probably gonna fall out. The backside, you have MOLLE. The cool thing with this MOLLE, especially for the SNS Precision plate frames and the Kydex exterior attachment panel that you have, you can specifically weave based off of how that plate carrier is set up. So if I have to skip any one of these sections and MOLLE through certain ones, I have that ability, where a lot of the other companies that are on the market, they'll just skip these MOLLE sections that they have that fill that gap. So that is one cool thing about the backside of this, is you have the ability to really custom fit and attach this pouch based off of the MOLLE system or whatever system that you're running. Or if you're running a bag, for instance, and there's sections of MOLLE, but you're trying to make it fit in a certain way, you have the ability to do some cool attachment stuff, or like kind of manipulate the MOLLE to attach it the way that you need to. So the only issue when it comes to this pouch specifically for the SNS plate frame modular is you need to use the WTF fix-it straps to attach it. It keeps everything nice and streamlined, but the buckles or the clips at the bottom of these malice clips will actually push the magazine pouch off of the plate carrier, and sometimes it won't want to attach properly. So with that system, I would recommend running the WTF fix-it straps. They just do a little bit better job when it comes to attaching. Certain setups and configurations you may need to do that, but that's really the only for the plate frame modular. The malice clips will work perfectly fine with everything else. So I love malice clips. I have a ton of them. I use them for a lot of other pouches and setups and configurations, but for this, it is a little bit more specific. With that though, I want to talk a little bit about the setup stuff and why I picked this pouch over the SNS Precision pouch that I was running, because of some offset issues. So it is kind of a little bit of insight as far as why I'm running this versus some of the other stuff that is out there. So I love S&S Precision. I think they're a phenomenal company, and I absolutely love the magazine panel that I'm going to show you right here from S&S Precision. I think it's an awesome product. The only issue that I have with this and why I'm running these tactical tailors is because of the laser cut MOLLE being slightly offset. So unlike this guy where you only have maybe 1/4 of an inch of drop down from the top of the pouch to the MOLLE, this has a substantial lot more, or substantial more space or measurement. The measurement is greater. Here it's about a 1/2 inch, maybe even a full inch. So when I was adding these Blue Force Gear 10-speed pouches for some mission-specific equipment that I needed, when this was all mollying together, I ended up having some offset, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see it perfectly, but when this offsetted on my pouch, it created this lip that was on the bottom of the Blue Force Gear that would catch my rifle in the optic, and then my rifle optic would end up getting stuck, or my rifle would just get stuck underneath this magazine panel. So when this was like set up on my kit, it looked almost like that, where you had a ton of overhang and it just wasn't securely fastening the way that I wanted it to. So that's the reason why I'm putting a hold on these guys right now, just because of the way that that was set up and configured. And I had that offset where with this, everything is nice and flush. And then when you have everything put together, you don't have that offset like that S&S Precision did. So this is what I'm going to be running for now on both of the S&S Precision plate carriers that I have. So that way I have everything that I need specifically the way that I need it. So when it comes to the two different versions, just a quick tip for the Blue Force Gear 10-speed pouches, these ones with the MOLLE on the exterior are actually a little bit nicer because they have this little tab. So putting magazine pouches back inside of this thing is a lot easier. In conjunction with that, it's really nice to run just small little accessories in the MOLLE right here. I usually throw handcuff keys or just like lock picking sets that I can slide right in here and they'll stay in place. So I highly recommend this one over just the traditional one because it does give a little bit of additional capability. So with that though, I really don't have anything else. I highly recommend the Tactical Tailor 5.56 triple mag panel. Like I said, it was one of the very first pouches that I ever purchased in the military, and over time it is one that I've always gone back to and I've always recommended to other people. So with that, if you have any questions, please feel free, leave a comment. We'll help you out in any way that we can in answering those questions. Like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.